Hello, everybody. It's Graham Coath. Losing my voice again. I don't know what I keep doing to myself. I think it must be the change of weather. It's got very kind of sticky at the moment in the weather, but hopefully it will last out. Maybe it's because I just talk too much. In a minute, I'm going to be speaking to Josephine. It's a great name. Where did you get that name from? Your mum and dad?
Yeah, my grandmother was called Josephine, so I'm named
Oh,
after her. Yeah, my middle name is Alexandra, which is after my grandpa, who was an Alexander. So it's straight up family names.
there is a real story there. But one of my favourite songs by Chris Rea as well, Josephine. There you go. Little musical tidbit there. I'm going to be speaking to Josephine straight after this from Analog Trash.
Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop.
So Josephine, originally from the Scottish Highlands. That's what it says in your press release. So I'm not,
Indeed, indeed.
I'm not mind reading. I'm just, I can read, just proving that I can do that. Which part of the Scottish Highlands are you from?
So I'm from just outside Inverness, from an area
Oh
called the
wow,
Black Isle. Yeah.
yeah, it's a long way,
Yep.
Inverness. For anyone that's ever journeyed up into Scotland, when you reach the border of Scotland, Inverness is another whole country away. Still,
Yeah, basically. I think
people.
from Leeds on public transport, you're talking like 10 to 12 hours of traveling.
Yeah, I did it. I'm based in Chard in Somerset, which is quite a long way south, southwest, and I had to drive to Inverness twice
Wow.
in a van that was restricted to 50 miles an hour
From Somerset, that's
from
brutal.
Somerset, and it was. And the first time that I did it, I left at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which was mad. Um, and I stopped for 20 minutes at Manchester for a quick wee, and I arrived at 3 o'clock in the morning. So it was horrendous.
Wow. Wow. That's quite the journey.
Yeah, but you don't realise, as I say, you really don't realise until you've done it just how far it is. And of course, it was dark, so I didn't really get to see all of the beauty of what I was passing. It was just scary. And there's that bit where you go sort of up past the locks and whatever, where actually the road just kind of disappears into mist and there's not much road, and
Mhm.
it really is quite frightening. And when you then see it the next day and you can see like the Cairngorms and everything,
Oh, they are gorgeous, yeah.
yeah, they are. Though they are, apart from on the way back on the trip, um, didn't realise I was running low on fuel, and
Rookie mistake.
and it was like, I wonder when the next service station is going to be. And it was I think I just about
Yeah,
managed,
I can
just
literally
about
think
managed to
of
do it on
all
air.
of the service stations that exist on that road. There's like 2 of them.
It's a wonderful place. What kind of influence on your music did growing up in a place like that have on you?
I think it definitely influenced the singer-songwriter, element of my music.
I want to get out.
Obviously, growing up in that area, the big scene up there is the trad scene. So,
Mm,
I went to the Face Ross, which is like a music camp for teenagers and kids, but it's very traditionally based. So I play keyboard as like my main instrument, piano and keys, which are not traditional instruments in the trad scene at all. So I obviously could only go so far with traditional music. But I was really fortunate to grow up in a time when the Inverness music scene was really, really vibrant. Unfortunately, with the state of the world over the past few years, Inverness has seen a lot of venue closures, which is really sad. But when I was a teenager in the area, there was a lot of opportunities for singer-songwriters and young performers, and there was a whole scene of us kicking around at the time who were kind of in that weird in between like singer-songwriter, indie pop folk. But yeah, I think growing up in that area, I was like, I think if I'd have played guitar, maybe I'd have gone down a more trad route. But alas, I play piano.
There you go. Yeah. Well, either that or some kind of weird instrument, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, just a penny whistle or something like that.
Yeah,
maybe.
definitely.
Is it now? You tell me. You may or may not know this. Does the kind of museum? I think it's a museum of traditional Scottish music still exist in Inverness. I remember going to see a museum up there that actually kind of laid out the history of traditional Scottish music.
I have no idea. I'm Googling it.
There you go. It was a wonderful thing. I mean, it was,
yeah, I think that there might be, according to a quick Google, there might be elements of that at the Inverness Museum, but I have not been. And I feel, is that a normal thing to not go to the museums of the place that you're from?
Well, maybe.
You know what I mean? Because I've never experienced Inverness as a tourist, so I haven't done many tourists.
That's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing. That's the thing. And did you, whilst you were up there, did you ever hop over to the islands as well at all?
I have done. In 2014, I actually did a small tour of Outer Hebrides Islands with a whole bunch of people. My sister currently lives out on one of the islands. She lives on Stornoway. Yeah, she's living in Stornoway.
She lives in Stornoway. Yeah.
Had a total.
I remember when Stornoway had a Woolworths, which sadly.
I remember when Dingwall had a Woolworths.
which sadly demised with the demise of Woolworths, but and that was like the shop, I think, where all of the young people hung around. I don't know what they do now. They probably just build a croft, and knock it down and move on to the next one. It kind of it's a weird and strange place, isn't it? The islands are beautiful, but
yeah. I know what you mean. They're very serene. Like whenever I've been out to the islands, I've always had a really nice time. It always makes me laugh when they refer to Scotland as the mainland. I know that makes sense because Scotland is the mainland, but I don't know why I find that so amusing. But they refer to it as the mainland, and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. So what set you on your path of where you are now in terms of music? What was the moment of musical revelation for you that kind of made you think, I'm gonna make music like that?
I think it was when I started collaborating with more producers. So I've been learning a bit of production myself over the past few years, and I co-produce on a lot of my music, but I'm not fully literate on the softwares to be 100% a producer myself just yet. But I think it was when I started collaborating with other people, bringing more influences into the mix, because my music at the moment, compared to the earlier singer-songwriter stuff, it's a lot more pop. It's a lot more art pop, I suppose, is what you would maybe say. Elements of dream pop and hyper pop, but it is like a lot more electronic, and it has moved away from the singer-songwriter kind of folk inspirations. And I think, fully collaborating with others, expanding on my own listening taste as well. And I moved down to England just before the lockdown, which was great timing, but through that move I've met so many musicians, because I did my master's at the Leeds Conservatoire. I met a lot of people, so I think just expanding on my own kind of horizons has meant that my music has expanded with that. So it's been really nice.
Yeah, good. You've mentioned you expanded your listening. What are you listening to?
I think that over the past couple of years, I remembered thinking like, I listened to such random music. Like when I was younger, I was really into Regina Spektor and like Ben Folds, which again, I think you can then hear that in my music that I released when I was younger. But I found that I was wanting to write more electronic music, and then I realized I didn't listen to a lot of music that was electronic.
That's funny how that happens, though, isn't it?
It is,
for a number of musicians. sorry to stop you mid
Oh
flow,
no,
but
no, it's cool.
it's yeah, it's almost like with electronic music as well, because I I listened. I listened predominantly to, I guess, rock music when I was really young, etc. And then, you know, you've almost got to be in a particular kind of group of people and or listening scene in order to get into electronic music and really kind of appreciate it and understand it. And it wasn't until like a friend of mine who always wore a long black coat, never understood why he always wore a long black coat, you know, introduced me to things like Jean-Michel Jarre and Tomitar and stuff like that, that it was like, oh my goodness, look at this and you know, some of these bits have no words and they go on for a long period of time and whatever, but actually I really like, and it's almost quasi classical at the same time in areas that suddenly thought, yeah, there's something really to this. And then when you start experimenting with gadgets, because that's the other part of electronic music, you have to kind of experiment with gadgets, you know, you suddenly discover that there's an incredible world out there of sound that you're not limited by when you necessarily play everything on a guitar or you know, just a standard keyboard or whatever. So, you know, there was an element of that for you, was there, where you suddenly sort of like discovered the magic button?
Yeah, and I think again a lot of that comes from the producers I was working with and the collaborators that I was working with, just learning what their taste was, listening to music I hadn't really investigated fully before. And I think that comes across now in the music I'm releasing at the moment. Like I would say I'm probably more inspired these days by sort of pop, more like straight up pop artists, but again with that art pop twist. So people like Caroline Polachek like come to mind and that kind of thing. Um, and yeah, I think I was so just involved in my own little singer-songwriter bubble for years. And again, also when I moved down to England, I've started playing with like a couple of other bands doing synth. So I'm in like a quite heavy band called Rubber Rose where I do synth and backing vocals, which has been really fun because I never thought I'd end up in like a heavy band, but it's really good fun. And I do session synth for a band in Scotland called Declan Welsh and the Decadent West. And there's this kind of more like rock, kind of like indie rock. Again, never thought I'd be in that kind of band, but it's so much fun. So it's just
you
like
can
good
see
to expand
elements of
your
this, by the way,
horizons.
folks. If you go on Josephine's Instagram, you can actually see like these different things. And sometimes I'll ask you about that. Sometimes when you do things like that, it's quite confusing for someone looking in, because they look in and they go, well, hang on a minute, she does this, but she does that and whatever. And do you find that a bit annoying? Because I do. When I first started doing my music interviews and whatever, and I put them up on YouTube, I had a few people that kicked back and said, but you don't just do music interviews, you also interview people about politics and ergonomics and you know, culture and, you know, ethnicity and all of these things as well. And they were like, why isn't it just a music channel? And you just think, because we're multifaceted people.
That's what I think as well, because I've had that a lot from people about like my online brand and all that not being consistent and like my releases not being consistent in like my influences not being consistent. And it's like, wow, it's almost as if I'm a person whose opinions change as I continue to live my
As you
life.
mature and grow.
It's almost like I'm not a brand.
Almost like I am not Nescafe. Other coffee brands do exist.
I'm kind of over that opinion of these days where it's like, oh, your Instagram's confusing, and it's like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's clear enough. It's like if you want to get involved with what I'm doing, I play with lots of bands and I do my own music and I put all of it on the same Instagram because I'm not going to run like three. Why would I run three different Instagrams? I think that would take up too much of my time. So I'm happy doing my thing, you know, and I've been like involved in the music industry for a really long time now, and there's no right way to do it is the thing. Like there isn't, and people will tell you there is, but there isn't. So I'm just doing my thing at this point and seeing how it goes.
Well, interestingly, I think more than we've seen in a long time over the last year. I think we've seen that the music or people within the music industry, and some fairly heavy weights as well within the music industry or artists that are fairly heavyweight, actually start to do things which will really shake up the music industry. Even things like Ed Sheeran deciding to release his latest album on his own record label,
Yeah.
I think will send a kind of reverberation through the industry to go, oh my goodness, we haven't actually got complete control of this here, which they never did have.
Yeah.
You know,
It's really frustrating when you're like an independent artist as well, because like me, my friend Rachel has just released her debut album. Her name is Cola. Check out her music, Kohla. Her album is beautiful, but
she's been on.
She's been on. Well, there
Yeah.
you go. Yeah, we love Rachel. But her album's just come out, and me and her have been talking a lot about like release strategies and being an independent artist and releasing, and like the industry has a model for how you're supposed to release, and it's exhausting. Like Rachel's done such a good job with her album release campaign. She's killed it, and like she's she's tired. She doesn't have a team around her helping, and it is mentally very taxing. And I'm in the same position. I've been trying to release an EP all year, but it's so stressful, and like there's so many things going on that it can be really difficult just to get the music out in the way the industry wants you to. So I will say, after my next EP comes out, which is next month, me and my band have been talking about kind of sacking off the release model that the industry expects of you and just kind of doing how we want to do it. So like we're dropping a song on Bandcamp tonight because we've got it ready and we just want to put something out for fun, and then we'll start the campaign for the next single next week. But I kind of realized recently when talking with my band that it's our project. We set arbitrary deadlines, but it's us that set those. So we can do what we want. We can record and release when we want. We don't need to pay heed to an industry timeline if it's causing stress, you know?
Yeah, I mean, when Kohla came on, we talked about the fact that you know, I think it was Radio 6 wouldn't kind of playlist her because she wasn't alternative enough, which I just thought was mental. In fact, I actually tweeted about it and moaned at Radio 6 to say what the hell, because it just it didn't make any sense to me. And we'll talk a little bit about pop girls in a minute as well. But yeah, I'm seeing again. Yeah, I've had some artists on in the last 6 months or so who have really kind of shaken it up in terms of the way that they've delivered stuff.
Mhm.
We had people like Ray Eiler on, etc., and Josh, who, you know, have done incredibly well with sort of releasing via kind of NFT type of market as well, rather than, you know, putting everything on Spotify. And I just think, I think one of the things that artists have to do these days is be creative, not just in their music art, but in the way that they do their business. I think you've got to find that creative way of making a noise outside of the way that everybody else is doing it. Because I don't know. I mean, you must get, when you're on Instagram, you must get these messages day in, day out. I'll promote this for you. I'll get you 1 million followers. I'll put you on this. You know, and you just think, go away.
It's all nonsense when people are saying that. Like, if anyone is offering like, oh, I'll get you this if you pay me, it's like, all right, simmer down. I don't know. I don't trust it. I think and it's frustrating because the Spotify model is only one way of measuring like a successful career. Like a thing I've spoken about with lots of people with my music, for example, is that like I had someone tell me this. It was when I had funding from Help Musicians a while ago, and you get like a mentor when you get funding, and one of my mentors, he was kind of a jerk, not gonna lie. I ended up putting in a complaint about him.
Jerk.
He well, no, he said ridiculous things. He said to me, when I mentioned pop girls to him, for example, and I was talking about like the racial inequality that the pop girls research has highlighted among Spotify algorithms, he went, oh, but do you not think that's just because Scotland's not a diverse country?
What?
Like, I know that was his response. So this guy was kind of a jerk, but he said to me that like, oh, I don't understand how you're playing all these big gigs, but you don't have that many streaming numbers. Like, are you just begging people for gigs? And it's like, No, I'm a professional working musician. I've been in the industry for a decade. I just like really put a lot of importance on my live career when I was younger. So I have like a really big live performance repertoire. I'm a session musician, like playing is my job. I just like didn't know Spotify was a thing until kind of late in my career, so I haven't like had as much time on it. And it's the way that like industry people measure your career on how many streams you have based on a platform that exploits its artists and has literal sexism and racist issues within its algorithms, I think is insane. Like it's insane that we measure people's career off of Spotify when there's so many problems with it.
And do you know
I don't
what,
know.
Josephine? It goes all the way down the line as well, because I mean, I contacted you directly to get this interview, but if you contact a PR company or you contact management companies in order to interview an artist, one of the first things that they ask you are, what are your metrics? And the metrics that they'll be looking for are the metrics on all of those platforms, where the metrics on all of those platforms are determined ultimately by money.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, it's like the amount of major label artists that will get support on these platforms versus independent artists, and like so many things that you can apply for as an artist. So I'm thinking like, big funds and things like that. They will put in the applications now like, oh well, what are your followers, what are your metrics, what are your listening base numbers, blah blah blah. And it's so disheartening, and especially like I don't want to call out the big funders and be like, they're all terrible, because they're not. And I'm so grateful that we have them. And the funding cuts that our major funders in the arts are currently facing is insane and horrible. But I will say, for the PRS Momentum Fund, you're basically expected to have a manager and you're expected to have a team, because there are sections of that app. Sorry, I write funding bids professionally as my like day job. So that's why I know all this. But you're basically expected to have a team in place to do the Momentum Fund application, because there are parts of the application that have to be written by your team. If you're an independent artist and being an independent artist is your thing, and you're like making a point of, no, I am independent and I don't want a team, you're basically ineligible from that fund, or it's going to be harder for you to access that fund. You're maybe not ineligible, but it'll be harder. Similarly, the Featured Artist Coalition had a fund called the Step Up Fund, and part of the rules in order to apply for that was that you had to have hit a certain amount of Spotify streams within a certain amount of months across a certain number of releases. Now, all of my funding clients, I was looking at all of their stats thinking, who do I know out of my clients that are eligible? And one of them got it, I will say, which I was very happy about. But the only two people that I worked with that were eligible were both straight white guys. Like none of the artists I work for who are marginalized really were eligible. And like both of those two artists, I will say, are working class artists and like are brilliant and deserve it 100%. Like I'm not saying they're not deserving. It's just that the fact that out of every single person I work with, they were the only two that were eligible. I was a bit like, well, that tells you everything about the way the industry is set up, doesn't it?
It does. And it's one of the reasons we have so many female artists on this show, is because actually one of the things I noticed, and I do work with some great PR companies, so let's just put that clear to begin with. And there are some great PR companies who truly love their music and whatever. But one of the things I noticed is that some PR companies pushing stuff through do tend to predominantly push through white young male artists, and that's just that, or even white old male artists, and that is just how it is. And so if you want to find an interview, some of a more diverse set of artists, shall we say, out there, then you actually have to go and find them yourself and do the work.
I mean, I do want to reiterate, I don't want that to sound like I was really coming down on the funders, because I'm really grateful that these funds exist. It's just, it is like you said, when it comes to marginalized artists being supported, it's like a thing the industry has to actively work at. And I think
maybe doesn't even realize it, or maybe some people in that pot don't necessarily realize just how bad it is, but it really is.
Yeah, and it's like, again, I'm going to use Declan as the example, because I obviously play session for his band, and they're at quite a big level for an artist in Scotland. And what's been crazy is seeing like the fact that they are still like having to fight to get paid properly for things as well, and they're still having to fight so hard to like push through, and they're at a higher level than a lot of other people in Scotland. So it's just kind of a bit like, if they're still having to fight so hard and they can sell out the Barrowlands, like, man, it's a tough industry out there.
Well, Josephine, the other day I did a culture change podcast with some industry leaders, and just to put this into perspective across not just the music industry, but still across industry in full. Do you know, at the moment it would take 131 years to reach gender parity in business.
Wow.
So
Wow.
if we carry on at the rate we're at the moment, 131 years, we do not have 131 years to wait for women to have equality in business. So things have to change. There you go.
100%.
Well, sorry if you came on thinking this was just going to be about music and you heard a bit of politics, but politics, why not?
Don't worry, I love politics.
Well, let's throw it out there. In fact, the new single's all about politics. No, it's not. Tell us more about the music. Well, what is it what are the things that you are writing about?
Well, I guess with my new EP, it's a whole mixture of songs on there. Again, there's a couple which are quite feminist in their politics, as that's, you know, kind of an inescapable thing for me as I was a woman in music. So my song That Boy, which was released a couple months ago, is very feminist, and it's about the kind of like gaslighting techniques that people use to like make you feel smaller. So it's about that. And then our other single was released just after that, called Slow, which is basically a cry for help. It's about like wanting to slow down and chill out and kind of not worry about things. Whereas in real life, I'm very anxious and I'm worried all the time. So it was kind of like, yeah, my brain obviously crying out for a rest when I wrote that, I think.
Do you feel now would be a really good time to sort of revisit that first single again, given the fact that the press at the moment are all over Married at First Sight, and Brad, I don't know whether you watch it.
No, I haven't followed any of this.
Okay, so Brad, who's on Married at First Sight, apparently has had to leave the program for being controlling over his wife, and did actually sort of saying things to really kind of belittle his wife. And
that's kind of exactly what the song is looking at. Yeah, that would be quite topical with that, 100%.
So I think now would be a good time, because the interweb is absolutely full of it.
Fair, the song is doing kind of well on Twitter, of all places. It has like 14,000 views, like the video on Twitter.
Of all places, where it's white, male, chauvinistic people.
I know.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it?
It's weird, right?
Hello, by the way, this is going out live on Twitter. Hello, everyone on Twitter.
I know. I'm so sad that Twitter has become so crap, because it's the social media platform I've been on the longest, and I basically can't leave at this point. I'm buried in the foundations.
It's a difficult one. I mean, how do you feel about things like social media? Because the thing is, from a mental health point of view,
it's atrocious.
Yeah, right. But you can kind of control it, or control how much a social media platform affects you by changing the crowd that you're attached to within a social media platform. But if you've got something to say and you've got an agenda and you want to get that message over, you've kind of got to go face to face with the crowd. Otherwise,
yeah. I mean, I find social media difficult, but I think it's because I work, like, it's my day job. I work in marketing as well, so I have to do it a lot for work. So I have like I don't know what I have many accounts.
We edit that out.
Cool. I have like 12 accounts of different social media accounts all on my phone. So my phone, which is just my normal phone, is constantly popping off because I manage a lot of people's accounts for my job. So it means when I have to do my own social media for music, I get really stressed. So I haven't been like updating my music one as much as I should have recently, but I've been trying to. It's just because I find it very stressful. So I genuinely will post something and then log out and not log back in until I have to post something else. Again, you were messaging me on Instagram. That's why I took so long to reply. It's because I just log out after using it. But
I totally understand that. I mean, I run my own social media marketing business, and I do social media for other people. It's one thing doing it for other people,
Then
but
doing
then
it for yourself.
it's almost like it's then a busman's holiday doing it for yourself. Yeah, kind of when that's your business and you own the business, you have to do it. All right. So for me, it's just about finding vehicles that I really love doing. So actually, most of my own. Again, here's a funny thing. Most people have said to me, "Why isn't because you run a social media marketing business? Why isn't most of your content on social media about the fact that you offer social media marketing?" And I go, "Well, because that would do my head in."
Yeah.
So most of my
I
content,
completely agree.
most of my content is this because I enjoy doing this, and if you enjoy doing it, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah,
Simple as.
see, I've been trying to use TikTok more because obviously it's the platform for music right now, but I've been trying to do exactly what you've just said and do things that I enjoy on it so that I don't get bogged down with it like I do everything else. And as a result, my Instagram algorithm is so stupid. It's nothing. I get nothing music related on my
Well, let's
Instagram
do some
algorithm.
stuff together
Yeah,
sometime.
so
That'd be
TikTok algorithm,
nice.
sorry.
Let's
Yeah,
do-
yeah, and it's like it's kind of nice because my friend who works in the art, she's a filmmaker and photographer. She told me recently that she completely deleted TikTok because it was just making her sad because she was just seeing people and their careers and she was, comparing herself and that old lark. But I swear to goodness, I only get Star Wars on my algorithm for some reason on TikTok. I'm literally just getting nerd stuff, so it's not
I
stressing me out, but I know I need to do more music stuff on it to, like,
listen.
make the algorithm work for my career.
I
So
find
it's a weird
I
one.
find TikTok for me the most difficult one of the lot because it's an inane kind of
Yeah.
platform. But I've done a few things. What I really enjoy on TikTok is whinging. Right, I can have a good whinge about anything, and so I've decided that if I do go on TikTok, I'm going to do one of three things. I'm going to either piss about on guitar, and that seemed to be quite popular as well. I'm going to whinge, or I'm just going to repost stuff from
Yeah.
Instagram about these videos, and that's it. And that's what I'm going to do. Because you can't be everywhere all of the time.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say to you is, and it kind of leads into the pop girls thing as well, because I do want to talk about that, is I think one of the strengths that you can create these days as an independent musician is working and collaborating with other people and the strength of interacting with other people. And one of the things that I've been doing with artists to help artists on social media, independent artists, is getting artists to work with other artists on their social media, because that really works. And the reason it works is people love to learn what is fucking shitting hard. Sorry. Oh dear, I swore. What is hard out there for different people. So I think actually sometimes and it's something you don't see a lot of as well, which is one artist talking to another artist and actually, rather than just being interviewed, actually talking to each other about what it was difficult getting this gig, and it was what did you find hard about this, and
Yeah, I was
what's the problem
thinking
with promoters,
I was thinking about doing a social media series where I go through everything I've been rejected from every year.
Good,
Because
that sounds brilliant.
I think people don't talk about that kind of side of the industry very often, and I have like the way that I approach that in my head is I like to try and get rejected from from a good number of things, because at least that means I've been putting my name in, and you need to get a certain amount of rejection statistically before you get accepted, if that makes sense. So like if you apply for 10 things, you'll get rejected from 8. But if you only apply for 2, then your chances of getting both of those 2 are lower statistically. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say? You know what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
No,
so
no.
I was thinking of like trying to highlight the rejection side of things more on social media, so that, because you're right, every single artist that I'm friends with on socials will be going through the same thing, but we just don't talk about it. And like on social media and with the way the industry works, like if someone in the scene is having a good week, you know about it, but you never know when someone's having a bad week. So I think it would be nice to share that side of things as well.
Well, let's face it. what you see a lot of the time from big artists out there is all of the good stuff. And even when they're sharing their emotional story and, you know, what they've learned and, you know, Ed Sheeran doing his little spiel about, you know, you learn through failure, you don't learn through success, which is true, which is wonderful. And I'm sure he's coming from the right place with that. But he's got lots of money and he's successful. So, you know, one of the things is that a lot of people look at that and will be going, it's great, Ed. But the thing is, you can now say that because you're coming from that point where actually it doesn't matter, you know, because you've made it, you've got the money, etc. I think people love to see something authentic from people, and the kind of authentic they want to see is something that they can relate to themselves. So I think that sounds like a great piece of content, which is, you know, and you also, it's got value to it, because the value that you're offering in that piece of content is you're showing people how not to waste their time.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I hadn't thought of it in that
Don't
term.
apply for this, because there's not unless you meet this criteria, there's not a Scooby-Doo's that you're going to get it. So there you go. That's brilliant. Talk to me about Pop Girls.
Yeah, so Pop Girls, obviously, if you've had Rachel on the show, people might be a bit familiar, but Pop Girls is a collective for women, trans, and non-binary people in music. And it was founded by Rachel back in 2019, and I joined in 2020, around about the same time that the first campaign that Pop Girls ran started, which was a campaign against the Spotify playlist on Spotify, which is the largest editorial playlist for new Scottish music. Back in 2020, what were the statistics? I can't quite remember the statistics, but it was basically revealed that the playlist was high majority male. I think it was only 9% of the playlist was solo female identifying, and there were no people of color on the playlist at all. It was completely white. So Rachel started, kind of by accident, a campaign to highlight this. She just started tweeting, bless her, and then it turned into a whole thing. And I just finished my master's at this point. I had done my master's thesis exactly on this subject matter, on intersectionality within the music scene. So I kind of had like the crisis communications training in order to like deal with a social media thing that kind of took off. So I ended up speaking to Rachel a lot during that time. I ended up running the comms for Pop Girls stuff during the Spotify campaign thing, because obviously it kind of blew up a lot more than was expected. And through that, me and Rachel have become really good friends. We've been researching into Spotify campaigns as volunteers ever since, and we've been presenting our findings to leading UK and European universities, which is really exciting. So we're currently trying to get funding for Pop Girls, because me and Rachel run everything as volunteers right now, and it's a lot of work. So we're trying to get money behind us so that we can kind of become a proper organization and support the members kind of more tangibly, I guess, because at the minute it's, you know, there's only so much you can do with no money, and everybody needs so much support. So we're really trying over the next 5 years plan, I guess, to become a proper organization doing good in the industry, because it's a great collective, and we've made so many friends through it. Something that's really wonderful about Pop Girls is I feel that before Pop Girls, other women in the scene weren't really my friends. Like, you weren't really friends with other women making music because they were your competition, because, you know, promoters would only be putting one of you on the lineup with 4 men. So that was kind of the attitude. Like, it felt competitive, and through Pop Girls it's turned that competitive nature of the music industry into a much more community focused space. And I think that all members are benefiting from that. Like, everyone's learning from each other. It means now if you have a gig on, you know, you can post it in the Pop Girls group and a bunch of members will come down. If you have a single, post it in the group, a lot the members will pre-save, and it's creating a much more supportive and community-based group, which just didn't exist before. So it's wonderful to be a part of, and really grateful to Rachel for setting it up.
That really resonates with me. I mean, I remember when I first kind of started this 4 years ago, part of my headspace was that looking at other creatives within the industry and thinking, you are a competitor, and, you know, you're being a little bit cautious about, you know, communications and relationships and whatever else. And now my head's completely in a different space with it, where I actually now just see everybody as a collaborator. And I think actually it's a really good place to be in there, which is that if everybody can in some way, shape, or form help the bigger good, then actually it's great. And there will always be a space there for you and what it is that you're doing, which is unique and different from everybody else. So don't ever see anybody, like A, life's too short. B, there's just not enough people doing good stuff. So when you find people
there's room for everybody. And I think the industry likes to make you think there isn't, but there is.
The industry is wrong. That's a T-shirt which you'll get printed and start selling. The industry is wrong. Actually, one of the things that I shall tell you actually is one of the things that I started with a number of artists, which and some people have taken it up, is getting band T-shirts printed where you have the logo of the band on the front, and it says "I listen to." On the back, it says "I listen to," and insert name of the band or artist on, and then it lists all of the streaming platforms, Spotify, whatever.
That's smart.
But I paid them £15 for the T-shirt, and that I do believe if we could get a whole host of artists doing that, it would be marvelous. Because what it would do is it would make people understand that actually it's fine to have this distribution mechanism where it essentially looks free, but actually we need to actually put money in the pocket of the artist.
Well, see, that's why me and my bandmate are actually releasing a song tonight on Bandcamp for no reason. We have our actual single campaign for our proper single that's coming out on Spotify is like next week. But this has been a very random week. We have a TikTok that has 30,000 views from yesterday. So we decided to very quickly turn the song around that people on TikTok are asking for. So we're going to put it on Bandcamp tonight to respond to that. But literally, it was like, if we put it on Spotify, we're going to have to wait weeks for it to come out. We'll miss the momentum. And if we put it on Bandcamp, well, I mean, we're going to put it up for pay as you feel, but it means people might send us a $5 or something. Do you know what I mean? And it might actually help our career instead of just throwing it down the drain like it feels like a lot of the time with Spotify. Oh, I am never going to get on a Spotify playlist after this slander.
Well, that's where you're wrong. That's where you're wrong, you see, because we do have now. It's taken me 4 years of sitting on my ass and not doing it to get it to this point. But then I suddenly thought, actually, I've got to help all of these artists that have been on. Over 300 artists have been on and through this show in the last. It's about 3 years actually. So we do now have the My Music podcast playlist, of which you are going to be on.
I'm going to be on a Spotify playlist.
Yeah, on that Spotify playlist. And what I've been doing is going back through all of the artists and getting them on various platforms to share it and get more likes on it. So the idea is that collectively, all together, everybody gets shared, which is a wonderful thing.
That is great.
It's also probably the longest and most eclectic playlist that you've ever listened to.
I love that because I think I hate it when, for example, when me and Rachel have been digging into our research with Spotify, one of the reasons that we've come up against that we heard from somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody at Spotify, that apparently the reason why it's not that inclusive is because the playlist started as a more indie rock focused playlist. Kind of like Franz Ferdinand and like that kind of vibe. And therefore they do not want to alienate the current listening base by having, lots of different genres on there. And that's the excuse that we've heard for why it's not a diverse playlist. And to that I say, ridiculous, nonsense, stupid, not a real answer. If genre was that big an issue, then make more playlists that are dedicated to genres of different types of music. I think that it's way better if you have eclectic genres coming in on a playlist. Like that's more exciting for a listener. Certainly, it's way more interesting. You're going to discover way more artists that way. And again, I think it was just them trying to excuse the algorithm.
Well, Josephine, this will never happen, but if it does, it's my idea, and I thought of it first. I've already said that I would love it if Spotify actually had a little button. So rather than the curated AI curated playlists that you get on there, that we could actually switch on. And if they thought about this would be good. If we could connect it as a kind of social platform, and actually you could switch on people's playlists where actually you kind of invite people into the playlist through some kind of communication, and you actually have those kind of conversations on there. Like,
That's a great idea. That's a great idea because I've been listening to a lot of new music recently, and part of the way that my playlists that I listen to in my own time have been designed have been mostly my friends. I've been like, here's my
Exactly.
playlist. Do you have any suggestions for it? Here's what's on it already. Do you have any suggestions? And it's been great. Like, yeah, big shout out to my friends and their excellent taste.
Exactly, and have themes as well. I'm working with an artist called Faye. Hi, Faye, at the moment. And we've started a playlist because she's got a song out at the moment called "I Set You Free." It's a collaborative play. I'll actually invite you to it. It's a collaborative playlist, and we're just looking for songs that are about setting someone free to love again. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what genre it is.
Yeah,
That's the thing. We don't. Who cares about the genre? It's about. Then it's thematic, you know?
yeah. Who cares about genre? I'm literally about to release a song that is not relevant to anything I've just released and isn't relevant to the EP that's coming out next month. Whoops. She's being inconsistent again.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Anyway, that all being said, it's just been wonderful talking to you today. Thank you so much
You
for
too.
coming
Thank
on.
you very much for having me.
Please, folks, if you haven't already, do check out Josephine's music. What we will be doing as well, when I put this onto the Insta and everything later today, is we will be putting, because she's going to let me have it, the link to the Bandcamp that's going out tonight.
Yes, I will. I'll let you have that as soon as I put it up. I'm basically going to be putting that up once this call finishes.
There you go. So that's going to happen, and then we'll put that on there. And if you'd like to help, if you've listened to this conversation and you want to help and you want to, go and download the song and give a little bit, price of a cup of coffee, anything like that. And every little helps, as Tesco would say.
A random fun fact about the song is that it features a sample of Welsh actor Michael Sheen, because earlier this week we tweeted him and asked if he'd send us a voice note that we can sample, and he actually sent us one back. So it's me
I saw
and
that.
my bandmate Lachlan featuring Michael Sheen.
I saw that. I saw the two of you going, we're going to contact Michael Sheen, and he responded back. Do you know what someone needs to do? Again, being really clever. You know, one of the things that really works on social media is when you do a post and that post features other people.
Yeah,
right?
the collab posts.
Because people love looking at themselves or being, feeling that they've done something and then liking stuff that they've done, and even if it's part of a collective. So at some stage, what we might do is do a song where we basically ask you to send in voice notes. There's a clever little bit of software for that, actually, and we'll put all of them into a song. And we could maybe get like 30,000 people with in there, and then every single one of those 30,000 people will probably stream it just to hear them.
I love that. That's a good idea. Yeah,
it's logical. It's logical. Think about it. They won't even know whether they're in there or not. Wow, we'll just tell them that they are.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. Which song would you like on the My Music Podcast playlist?
Ooh, my song "That Boy," if you don't mind.
That Boy, that's going on straight after this.
Thank you.
Please, folks, if you have enjoyed today's Malay, then do share it with other people, your friends, your family, the dog next door, who was barking all the way through that interview. Sorry about that.
My cat was meowing in the hall all the way through as well. Don't worry.
It probably sounds worse to me than it does to, but there you go. Just in case you heard that dog in the background. If you haven't liked this today, you get on my goat. But it doesn't matter. just share it anyway.
If you haven't liked this, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Go out and buy some grey paint and lick it. That's what I say. But just don't poison yourself. We'll be back later in the week with yet more my music. Until then, stay safe and have a good life. But do check out Josephine's music. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.